everyone for coming for this panel about not only about actually Gen Z. We're going to listen to Gen Z because part of what we've realized is part of our purpose of this conference is to really bring the generations together more. And we really haven't achieved that nearly as much as we liked in 3 months. So hopefully this is just a springboard.
Thank you so much for the introduction and for hosting this conference, Angeline. So a quick introduction about myself is I am a senior at Duke University. I am studying public policy and digital intelligence. And I am also the co-founder and vice president of Tech for Change at Duke. So Tech for Change is essentially a network at Duke where we try to provide resources to students at Duke to connect them with different faculty, different experts, and connect them with career resources and anything that might not be available without this essentially club at this school. So I do that, and I also have experience in AI ethics research and also as a trust and safety consultant. And I am very interested in empowering Gen Z to take leadership roles in the online safety space.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dio Cortez. I'm a student here at Miami-Dade College. What is it? My major is computer engineering. And what else? I'm involved here because just like Lindsay, I'm involved with Tech for Change. Though for me, I know this organization more as PIT-UN or Public Interest Technology University Network. I have been more involved into the student group that this organization has, and what we have done is we have basically created a team where we have all collaborated in multiple events. The first event that I have ever participated with them was what is it? We were hosted to go to Boston, and we needed what is it? To we volunteered to help out in the logistics of what is it? The Boston University's hackathon, the Tech for Change hackathon. And after that, we also participated in a summit in San Jose about kind of the mission that this organization has, what it means for us as students, and what also means to the faculty that help us and that we all collaborate with. A little bit more about my personal experience. What is it? I love everything that's technical, so I definitely been involved with AI. I also been involved into the ethics sides of what AI has and kind of the impact and consequences that it has on the social side. And I've done a little bit of work with cryptography and cryptography and a little bit of crypto systems to kind of test out the security that the the internet has, since it's kind of like this web where everybody is. I think it's important that we definitely, what is it, live in a place that's safe for all of us, that's safe for all of our information.
Thank you to both of you. I mean, I love that you're so active, right? In all these topics that we've been discussing these days. But I want to ask you because what we often hear from older people like me is that we have to somehow about Gen Z, younger generations don't care about their data. They think this. I don't care about these things. They're digital native in the sense that all digital. So I want like a part of this panel to really help understand what would you like wish that other generations understood better about your experience basically in like the digital world, the world that has become so highly digital. I guess Lindsay and then Diego.
Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out. I do definitely think that that's a large misconception about Gen Z, is that we often are at the brunt of it. Gen Z is addicted to their phones. They're always using their screen time. Maybe they have the most mental health challenges from being online, but I think that that is more so turning the issue to Gen Z, when in reality, it is the bigger picture. It is the technologies in place and the lack of regulation and including Gen Z in the development of these technologies. So I think that from me, Diego, Aamani, who hopefully will be here soon, and other young people in this space who I've been so lucky to meet and introduce myself and collaborate with, you can really tell that young people do care about their data and about their online safety. And it is kind of just turning the problem around to them without actually taking any initiative to create change with these platforms.
I also share the same opinion as with everything that Lindsay say, but I also believe that since us this generation we're kind of the, or at least I like to think of it that way, that we were the first generation that what is it, had to grow up and was kind of like use social media, use the internet was a companion to everything that was happening around us. I think we also has kind of we're adapted, or we have adapted to what is it, to being safe in the internet. I think it has been a big a big point for us, not only to be safe but to also, what is it, just sorry, uh to kind of coexist in the internet without really exposing much of ourselves. Of course, social media is, it's kind of like, or I like to believe that it's a major part of the social interactions that we have as a generation in the internet. And at that point with safety, I think it has depended a lot into kind of what each individual person decides to show, or kind of what they decide to share on the media, that it's open for everybody. But when we talk about internet safety, I think we should have a bigger concern on, not on what happens in the front, but what happens in the back. It is a current issue that, what is it, a lot of the services that everybody uses, whether it's social media, whether it is, what is it, some other type of service that requires a database, that require us to have our information vulnerable, or to kind of expose that. I think it's a bigger issue that we don't have, or that ever so often we hear of a big leak or a big security breach. And at that point, I really believe that the issue is that our information is vulnerable without us really being able to have a say on how secure it is, or how fortified are the defenses is to stop a leak from happening.
It's really interesting from both of you. And I'll just go to Mani. Aamani, thank you for being here. If you want to introduce yourself. And the question that I asked Lindsay and Diego was just about misconceptions, basically what misconceptions that you feel people have about Gen Z and the world growing up with tech.
Right, so I'll start off by introducing myself. I'm sorry, joined late, technical issues. But hi everyone, my name is Aamani. I'm a junior at Penn State University. I'm studying enterprise technology integration. I have a minor in engineering leadership development and also pursuing a business data competency certificate on the side. I work a lot in the AI space in research as well as like startup competitions where I've organized courseworks for like people coming from non-technical majors to like understand how to use these technologies like large language models, GPT, and just make sure they're leveraging it for good and making their lives easier and not just like replacing their tasks. So that's been me. And back to the question, could you repeat that again? What was the question?
Yeah, the question was basically this is one of our focuses is to help bring the generations together in terms of technology and how we can solve this online harms whole problem, right? And a large issue that I've seen, and I was just asking about misconceptions about Gen Z, like how you interact with technology, your opinions, like with data, privacy, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think Gen Z is the first generation that does and doesn't remember life before the internet. Like I remember playing outside a little bit, but not too much. And that's both a privilege and responsibility. So like it goes on to saying whenever we're on a website and it says, "Oh, do you accept the cookies?" Do I always read? No, but I also know the websites that I'm going on are secure to begin with. I don't need to like, make sure that I'm allowing this website to invade my data or like have access to my privacy per se. So it's just being cognizant in your everyday steps. It could be like opening a singular link, but making sure you're not just going on like random places, like all over the internet. It has like, if I were to go over like an analogy, internet is like a great city full of amazing sites, but also dark alleys. So we have to navigate it wisely.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I've heard and experienced a lot of times with, I mean, younger kids actually, but I can imagine you have a similar experience. Is this whole thing about like parental controls and blocking and and the younger generations are very good at getting around it. And also the idea that we know how to stay safe online, right? And I always react to that. Yes, you do, but like the older generation, we need to do better at explaining what we can add, like to help, what we can do. Like each one of us has our strengths. What are your views on that statement that I always give all the time? Like what could really help Gen Z to be safer and to be more productive online?
I think when it comes to being more productive online, we're doing a great job by putting ourselves out there. Like I see like two sides of the same coin that, oh, you should be very private about like your own life, which is great. I completely agree with like personal life, yes. But when it comes to like professional successes, I think just posting on LinkedIn, I think that's how we all also got connected, and that's how we're able to be here and do something this beautiful. So I think it's very important to be productive in terms of putting yourself out there and making sure you're using this as a professional, like as professional opportunities, networking, and just making your personal brand. But when it comes to being safe, like being safe with it, I think there are caveats in anything you do. Like every day we step out of our own homes, we're risking not coming back, like anything could go wrong. So being mindful, but at the same time, not being so scared that you're not progressing with what like you have in front of you, which is the internet and so many technologies out there. Like at this point, I don't do like generalize it by saying AI, like internet, I can just say AI, like it is what you make of it. So make sure you use it, but use it wisely.
Thank you. Can I ask you, Lindsay and then Diego?
Yes. So to go off of that, I think one important part to just get Gen Z more involved is to not necessarily look at us or look at people in Gen Z as Gen Z, just look at them as people who are also interested in the conversation and also want to make change. I think it's just saving a seat for them at the table and making sure that they can be there and that they feel welcomed and heard. Most of the experience that I've had is not from just applying on LinkedIn or applying through a website, through a career website. It's from making connections like I've made with Angeline and like so many of the people on this conference. It's from establishing those connections and people seeing me as someone with value, perspective, and valuable experiences, despite the fact that I am still in university and most of my experiences are from either research within my university or from summer internship experiences. I think it's just taking a chance on people that you may see as glued to their phones or what you have these misconceptions about Gen Z. I think it's important to see past them and think back to yourself maybe 10, 20 years ago when you were also struggling to get a place at the table. And I think just including younger people in the conversation more than you would think to, I guess, is my piece of advice.
Well, in my opinion, when you talk about productivity is, I think we should really emphasize or at least this is my point of view, is that the internet has kind of given us this virtual life that it's kind of parallel to what we live day almost every day. I think the internet has served us as this platform where we can stay connected and we can kind of engage and have an impact in the world or in others people's life that were way outside of the range of kind of like your close surroundings. You could say, yes, you can impact the people in your school, in your university, maybe even in your community or in the city where you live. But now, thanks to the internet, we can go outside of that initial range. And I really think it's more towards or the emphasis should be in what that individual person wants to do with this power that they have been given. Yes, of course, you can talk about the what is it, kind of how the workforce it is right now, and especially for us, that some of us are just leaving university and we're ready to go into the workforce. Maybe we're trying to get some experiences halfway through, as kind of like for me as a sophomore at college. And I think it's what is it? It's important that to really have more effective ways to use the internet to put ourselves out there, to kind of show up what we're truly capable of, the skills that we have, and our true potential.
Do you all have the feeling that social media, you can be genuine? Is that realistic to be? Because, or the question is, how and where could it be a more effective way to be able to share who you are, what your skills are? Because I don't feel like there's really a good platform for that right now.
In my opinion, towards social media, I don't believe social media or this massive websites where you can have a massive or where you can have a massive impact with just the click of a button as the best way to kind of socialize. Or that way, I think it's when we talk about social media, I think it's important to make an emphasis into the personal or the caution that you want to have. I personally, despite that I grew up with Instagram, Facebook, and all of these big social networks were kind of going around as I grew up, I have decided to kind of try and stay or have an outsider look as yes, I'm signed up to the services, but I try to not really what is it have a major presence in them. I try to keep it very close circle. So that when I did say that we can have a massive impact, I think there is also possibilities for us to reach out more individually. I think that since yes, we have a bigger range and we can affect many more people, we should also emphasize the people that we truly want to affect. We should truly have a name to look out for what is it for the people where that we want to introduce ourselves, kind of like the way that we got together, or the current team of speakers that we have right here. It all started with one professor that we had in common, and that professor kind of reached out to us individually. I think it's very important for us Gen Z to have that communication skill through the web.
Thank you, Aamani and Lindsay. But that's really interesting what you said, to have that communication skill, because that's another one that I hear a lot, that Gen Z isn't very good at making phone calls and stuff like that. And I feel bad every time I say Gen Z now because of Lindsay, because you're right. That's what the panel is called. So the younger generation, I'll say now, it has even trouble making phone calls. So I don't know if, like, Aamani and Lindsay, however you want to answer whatever aspect of what we've been saying.
So when it comes to phone calls, for me personally, I think it's a separate issue where I just feel like, this can be a text or this can be an email. Like I just have that quick mentality, like, oh, it's like go, go, go. And like I'm big on time blocking. So I don't know if that's a Gen Z thing or if that's a me thing. Maybe Lindsay can back me up on this if I'm wrong. But to your question about like maintaining authenticity on like social media, I think as Gen Z or like as the younger population, it's a big challenge we see because we exist in a digital world where people reward curation over reality. Like the pressure to present a perfect life often disconnects us from like who we truly are and how we see ourselves. So the key here is to have balance. Like share your achievements, but also your struggles. Engage meaningfully and not just performatively. And social media should reflect who you are and not just who people want you to see. The reality isn't always aesthetic, and that's okay. And the more we embrace genuine conversations like this, unfiltered thoughts, and real experiences, the more we redefine what authenticity means online. And we can all do that. Gen Z isn't the only one who like has to contribute to this. It's like anyone who has a home and is like a digital citizen on the internet can take steps to ensure we work towards that place.
It's true, and this is something that comes up often enough. Yeah, that often we do point the fingers towards the younger generation and say, you need to fix this, you need to do this, but we need to take the mirror and look at ourselves, right? Every time I use my phone at night, I feel really guilty because we're always telling people not to use their phone at night. So, Lindsay, please.
Yeah, well, going off of that, I mean, it's the same thing. I came into college as a neuroscience pre-med major because I wanted to understand more so why we were so chemically addicted to our phones. And fast forward, I'm more so in the policy space now, but it's the same thing. I mean, I still consider myself like I can't put my phone down. I put a screen limit on, and it's the same, I think, for everybody in this day and age who uses social media. I assume that most of the people here on this panel found out about this conference from social media or from word of mouth online. So you can't just get rid of social media. We've tried that. I'm sure that everybody has tried screen time, screen limit. That's not a viable solution. And it's not something that just Gen Z or just older generations, younger generations struggle with. This is something that's universal. So I guess back to the original question of what you said, Angeline, of like, is this really you putting yourself out there? Like, is LinkedIn really a valuable way of showing who you are to the world? I think no, I don't think any social media platform really is like your authentic self. But I think that in this era, you kind of have to use social media to build up your platform, build up your business, build up who you are. So it's a matter of just doing it in a responsible way that isn't a harm to the users and to yourself.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's also about, knowing your own limits, right? That for your mental health, yeah, from social media. If I can slightly shift the conversation to something we talked about last time before when we previously met, is what I imagine. I remember a long time ago when I was in your position, and you're going to go into the workforce soon. But what you face, what wasn't even in anyone's mind when I was that age, is all of the AI that's involved in assessing basically what your next move can be, right? There's especially hiring and all sorts of stuff. And as Diego said, your data is also not secure, so that they'll know they can know a lot of stuff about you. Is that something that I mean you think about, you're concerned about, or is it just a part of that's life basically?
Well, I guess, yeah, that is a large part of my studies and what I'd like to do in my future career, something in AI ethics. I think that for everyone in this space and in any space, really, whether it's healthcare, law, like really AI is going to be a part of wherever you are in this workforce. So, I mean, yes, I am nervous and scared and curious, but also excited about how AI is going to affect our place in the society. But I wouldn't say that because I'm Gen Z, it's necessarily different than how it's affecting anyone else. But I don't know if that's necessarily what your question was.
Oh no, it's okay. You can answer however you want to.
Yeah, so going off of what Lindsay just said, like we're not sure if like it's a good thing or like how it'll truly impact us and if it's different because we're Gen Z. I think me personally, I realize we're so privileged. There are so many things that I would normally have to learn, like mentally, like through notification and remember them that I don't have to just because I have Chat GPT. Like when I'm like I have a job on campus as like a business analyst for like a nuclear plant that we have. And for them, when I'm like doing MySQL and just cleaning the data, normally I would need to know these commands or these codes that I'm putting in. Now I don't. I just go to ChatGPT and tell like to ask it to tell me what I need to do. But the only good thing is I've also been in college before ChatGPT. ChatGPT came out my sophomore year. So the knowledge I have kind of stagnated the first 2 years. So the reasoning and the critical understanding of why we do what we do came from those 2 years when I wasn't dependent on this large language model. So it's a boon and a bane. But when it comes to entering the job market with this, I think it's going to do me really good as compared to others because I'm in the tech field. And like it's that saying that okay, AI won't replace a doctor, but a doctor using AI will replace a doctor who doesn't. So for a lot of the fields, it's more an instrument than just completely replacing you altogether. There are some manual tasks and manual laborers out there that can be potentially replaced by AI completely, but I don't think that's going to happen in the next 5 years. So it's still going to take time.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the hype about what will replace in terms of your job future is maybe different than reality. Diego?
What is it? For me, what is it? I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to have this kind of talk also with many of my professors, and there's a lot of staff here at MDC who are really interested in AI and its many possibilities. And what is it? I've always, or since I started using it, I've always believed that AI, despite it what it might turn into the future, it's a tool. It's a tool for us. And what is it, like any other tool, no matter how useful it is nothing without that human factor. It's mostly about the way that we use it. And yes, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people have that negative outlook that it might take our jobs, or for the jobs that it has already taken, or what is it, or some areas in other part that has affected us as a society. We kind of talked about this effect that maybe recruiters, or well, not maybe, a lot of recruiters for companies right now are using AIs to streamline their job. And I personally don't see the negative effect on it. Like I said before, it is a tool. It is a tool that will make the what is it that will make a job easier. And while I also believe that yes, AI will take a lot of jobs, but what is it? It would also make for like new ones with a higher ceiling of the skills that you need. And I feel like this is AI is kind of like this new technology, but this trend has also, in my opinion, has been seen before in the past. It's kind of like when the industrial revolution happened, we saw that kind of transition from like farming jobs to now work at a factory. And now we're gonna see this transition now of a lot of, for example, coding or programming jobs to transition into something more where you have to deal with an AI to kind of express your ideas to me. And I feel like it will be a plus because you'll be able to express such ideas way more effectively. And what is it? More into the use that I have had with AI. What is it? Unlike Armani, I started actually my last year of high school. I had ChatGPT help me out with as a tool, not as a device where I could cheat on my homework or write an essay, because at the end of the day, that's just I not only do I believe it to be plagiarism, but that's just not you, and it's an ineffective way of using AI. You need AI to facilitate things for you, to what is it? To make learning easier for you or to make your job easier, but just so you can be you kind of use it as a trampoline to or as a platform that will allow you to be better, to be a better programmer, to be a better student, to be a better doctor.
Thank you. I mean, I really feel AI optimism from you guys, and I am obviously programmed to look for risk and pessimism. So I like to be faced with this. But one thing you said about cheating, because obviously everyone's like, oh, the students are cheating, they're not learning. My bigger concern in terms of using AI for anything, basically, but during your education, is that growing up, is when you define who you are, right? How you think, your relationship to things. You read a book and then what's like, what does it teach me? I would think there's a risk. I do think there's a risk that if you're using AI too much for work, then it's difficult to not have the kind of the opinions and worldviews of that tool kind of influence you. This is, as I said, I'm very focused on the risks in life. So, so is this something that you maybe think about or worry about? Because I would think that this leads to the fact that you have to know yourself better earlier, younger, in order to be able to avoid that kind of influence. So I'll start with maybe Lindsay and then Aamani and Diego.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that that's not seen just in terms of AI and like large language models, but also for social media. As Aamani said, like we are kind of the generation that did grow up with social media, but also we grew up playing outside and playing card games and board games. And so I think that to answer that question, I do think about younger generations than us. And I think that if I were a 13-year-old on social media, then I think that it would have affected me very negatively and very differently than how I am today, just because I didn't have, like what you were saying, the ability to be on my own and make my own decisions about myself and society instead of seeing thousands of others post their opinions and their beliefs about me instead of thinking about my beliefs about myself. So I think that it's kind of the same conversation that we have been having, but now since it's kind of like a new technology, AI instead of social media, now we're kind of reliving all of these same issues that I think we were thinking about before, but now it's just kind of a different main topic. So I do agree. I am very scared about every generation and their reliance on AI and large language models instead of asking like a quick Google search, like what is anything? And then you ask a large language model and input something else. And so it is just putting a lot of reliance in these new platforms. So I think it's just a matter of implementing digital literacy programs, educating people on how AI works, what this means, how it actually works. Like people don't understand that AI isn't actually learning. It's really just optimizing the different patterns. So I think that step one is just like educating yourself and educating others, like what we've done with social media, but now for AI.
Those are really good points. Thank you about the social media. Yeah, this is a similar conversation.
Yeah, I completely agree because, like, as far as I remember, I know the concept of iPad kids. I'm sure all of us are familiar with it. Like, the kid who's like sitting on the lunch table, scrolling through maybe a YouTube video and eating food. I think till that point we were fine. That's good. But now we're at the point that they're not just using their iPads or digital devices like phones at this point. I think every kid at this in this day and age has a phone, not just an iPad. They're not watching YouTube videos. They're just using ChatGPT or any like AI available to them to like solve their life problems. So what I remember from high school and middle school isn't the information that I learned, it's the art of learning. Like I may not remember what I learned, what was there in my environmental science book, but I do remember the process I went through to understand what was in the book. And that's what's important. And I think that's what these large language models are taking away from the children. So at that younger age, when we're not even out there, like even an adult yet, I don't think access should be granted that easily. I mean, maybe with some caveats and like some more control, like just how I think, Angeline, you mentioned like TV blocks, like, content control that parents put on. Something like that needs to be installed so that there is like a certain sense of urgency in knowing that you need to learn this before you have like external help to make you learn this, because we need that critical reasoning for ourselves. The workforce of tomorrow is like AI augmented, but human led. It's not just what AI can do, it's about how we as individuals use it ethically, strategically, and securely.
Thank you. That is excellent points. Thank you.
I think Amani touched a really important subject, that is that they're before we use the tech or before we use these technologies, we need to have the critical thinking in ourselves. And I really think that that's kind of like a very important topic, because I don't believe that we kind of need to prevent people from using these technologies. Instead, I think we need to kind of adapt as a society to mold around this technology. Uh, the way that I see it is, when I was, for example, when I was younger and I was dealing with strong math problems, I would just tell my dad, why can't I just use the calculator? And then my dad would tell me, what if you don't have a calculator? Look, 5 years, 10 years now, and there's practically a calculator everywhere. Maybe even in your fridge. And what is it? I think we should, what is it? That I think that this technology, while also helping us, I think it also challenges to work around it. That now our education shouldn't just be based around what is it around the things that ChatGPT or that any generative AI can quickly bypass, but it should challenge the student to want to understand things by himself. And this is something that, for example, I'm currently seeing right now in my physics 2 class. Our professor tells us, yeah, I'm gonna give you a homework, and if you want, you can do it with ChatGPT. I personally don't care. But if you this is in this class, you're gonna see the importance of the thing that you're learning at a fundamental level. Because once you're out of here, maybe the things that you maybe learn in this class or in the next one are not important to your day-to-day class, the day-to-day life. but you will see that that lack of logic, that lack of inner understandings of topics will cost you in the long run.
Wow, and really great points from all three of you. I just at my time, we used to ask, why can't we use Excel? And the answer was, well, because it might calculate wrong. So just to get way back in time, that's what you had to write it by hand because Excel might calculate it wrong. No, one thing I do want to ask is, what about boredom? Because just going back to finding who you are. I love what you guys said about both of you about learning to learn. And that one teacher that I interviewed, I've spoken to many times. That's what she told me. She said, you're always going to have cheaters, right? You're always going to have people who want to do the quick way. And what students need to understand is that, as your professor told to you, right, that will just be, in the long term, you're going to be the loser. So my question is about boredom, because I remember my college days, bored, you had no idea what to do. Internet, I think, didn't even exist at the time. So those were times when I had the best times. So do you ever get bored? I know it's a silly question, but I was weekends completely bored. And I would imagine that with phones and stuff, it's a different thing, maybe.
I don't actually remember a time where I was bored in its authenticity. I've forgotten the meaning and the feeling of being bored. Maybe during summer of 2008, 2009, I remember sitting on the sofa and be like, okay, now what? But ever since I've had this phone with me, I don't think so. I could be waiting at a doctor's appointment, sitting outside, and I'm just like, okay, I could be here for 2 more hours. And I feel like there's lesser time for me to be alone with my thoughts. As deep as this sounds, the only time I actually remember where I'm just alone and just thinking is when maybe I'm walking on a treadmill and I'm actively trying not to go on my phone. But it's a decision I need to make. But if I'm bored, I always have I don't want to call it privilege or luxury, but the easy option of distracting myself and just doom scrolling. It could be at any app. It could be Instagram. It could be TikTok. It could be Facebook. Also, it could just be the internet in general. I could just go on Google and just look up the most random facts that are not going to benefit me, not going to help me, maybe help me win a trivia night 10 years from now, but that's about it.
Perfect. Thank you. But I think it's not only the younger generation, but it's just about remembering remembering that.
What is it for me? I what is I feel like I get bored more often. In my phone, yes, I spend a lot of time in my phone. Especially I watch a lot of I consume a lot of content. I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm on Netflix all the time, Hulu, all of that stuff. And I feel like that has kind of, or a lot of the time I feel like this overload of sensory information. It just comes to a point where maybe if I'm for example, I've had a long day at school, and of course I've been on my phone in between, it comes to a point where it's just I kind of snap back to reality, and I feel like, wow, I need to stop. I can't handle just maybe listening to my music or watching another YouTube video. And for me, I feel like it has had, well, the opposite effect. I don't feel more attracted to it while I still live with it. I now I kind of want to go back to what is it, and go back to what is it, going out, what is it, playing soccer with my friends, playing tennis. Now, for example, well, before, when I was younger, before I had a phone, um what is it, having a phone seemed like this great thing that I really wanted to have. And kind of my day to day was just maybe playing outside. I didn't value it as much. But now the that I'm sitting here at this age and I work with all of this technology, whenever I have the chance to go outside and play soccer with my friends, or just be disconnected from this technology, seems like such a reward. It's pretty much the highlight of my day, week, or month. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wouldn't say that being bored necessarily is the word that I would use. I think that what Aamani said, yeah, in 2009, I would be bored. I had just come home from soccer practice and my favorite TV show wasn't on, I'm bored. But now I'd say I go on my phone before bed or when I wake up. And instead of feeling that boredom and sitting in the silence, you just doom scroll on your phone, and then you're drained, exhausted, or you feel like your brain is rotting. And so instead of being bored, I'd say we're kind of just turning our brains off and like tuning out from the world, which I think is definitely far worse than being bored. I think we do need a lot more boredom. And I think that is what people think is taking a lot of the creativity out of the world today, but not just, again, like not just Gen Z. I think that this is something that is still a universal experience for, even I see my parents now being on their iPad in the same room. And it's like that never used to happen. It would always be me on my phone. And then now I'm like, Mom, Dad, like get off your iPad, talk to each other. So it's like you really see it everywhere. I guess to answer the question of being bored.
No, that was perfect. And we're out of time. We could talk for such a long time. I do want to, there's one question from Jose, and Diego already answered it, but he said, don't you miss the connection with nature? I just want to know, like, flows with, maybe you can each give your comment on that, answering Jose's question.
I saw that and I was like, we do miss our connection with nature. Especially like there's so many, I think I can count on my hands the amount of times I've gone out on a walk without music. I think even music counts as, using the technology. Without music, it's just me. Like me wearing my sports shoes and like having a jacket and just going on a run hasn't happened in 21 years. I am 21 years old. So yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree with the same thing that Diego said. Like once a week, we'll play pickup football outside and not go on our phones or anything. And that is also the highlight of my week, just like being a little kid again and playing games for fun, just to play.
Amazing. Do you have any other additional thoughts, Diego? Because I know you answered the question even before it was asked.
Well, no, it's just I think we're all in an agreement that now, since we're all married to this technology, we're just very glad to get away from it.
That's a nice terminology. Something we can all imagine. Married to the technology. No, really, I can't be more thankful for you guys. Thank you so much. And anything that I can do to help you introduce you to people or get any stories out. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really great.